A brutal loss for the Utah Jazz tonight, losing to Tyrese Maxey, who had, I believe, his career scoring record against this Jazz defense. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, before we get into this, let's just give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. If you had the over tonight on Tyrese Maxey, that was the easiest over ever. You would have made easy money tonight. And if you want to get into all this action, go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd, and go try it out. It's a lot of fun. Go put $5 down. They'll give you $5. They will match up to $100. That's free money. Go put $5 down. It's your allowance. Go use $5. All right, guys, let's see. Let's just get into this. There's some things we've got to talk about with this Jazz team. The first is I'm not doing advanced analytics for the Jazz defense anymore because the advanced analytic numbers say it is doo-doo. It is bad. And that is basically all you need to know. The Jazz defense is putrid, and Tyrese Maxey, I mean, you got to give Tyrese Maxey credit. He made like 6 threes in a row, and they were like from 35 feet. That's hard to do against any defense, but man, this Jazz defense certainly makes it possible. And he absolutely just torched the Jazz tonight. Look at this. Let's see. Let me make this bigger. People have asked me for that. But anyways, where is it? Tyrese Maxey takes 27 shots. He made his first 6 in a row. He misses just 2 in the second half, which is, I can't see the points. So that gives credit, to Chris Dunn to slow him down a little bit. But man, what a night for Maxey, who scores 63% from the field, 77% from 3, 51 points. An absolute scoring machine. Why pass the ball when you make it every time? 1 assist for Maxey. And then the other guy that just absolutely destroyed the game, who quietly had an awesome night, was Tobias Harris, who goes 13 from 21 from the field. He missed every 3 he took, but he was awesome tonight as well. Interestingly enough, Tyrese Maxey was a -2 for this game. So anyone who wants to talk about plus minus, you know what? It's a very flawed statistic, okay? When was Daniel House the most important player tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers with his plus 10? No, he was not. It's one of those things that has nuance. If it's something that happens every night for extended periods of time, sure. But for a one-game night, it's really... here we go, man. It's late, but that's okay. We're doing this. It's 11:59. All right, let's see. What should we discuss? There's 2 things. I mean, there was this video online of Kelly Olynyk not passing the ball again to Keante George. Although if you follow this channel, that's no news to anyone here. We have been talking about that for months. For months that has been happening. And there's people online saying, oh, Key has a bad attitude. No. I mean, should we just get into it? Let's see here. By the way, for everyone who's saying things about Keante George, he was 5 for 9 from the field, 55%. And that's with Mr. Olynyk refusing to pass the ball to him there. Although Olynyk did have one nice pass to Keante on a cut to the basket, which was nice. As much as it pained Olynyk to make the pass, I guess. I don't know. That is the weirdest thing of this season. It's crazy. Oh, Alexander Tufts, you are right. The refs were absolutely horrific tonight. I doubt Sixers fans were happy either, but my gosh, that is one of the worst officiated games I've seen in a long time. Like a long time. That was, Jordan Clarkson was terrible tonight, but it's also hard when they allow Springer, whatever his name is, to just hug you the whole game. That's brutal. It was bad. It was really bad. If you watch that game again and just it's kind of like, I don't know. Although at a certain point, Jordan Clarkson has to recognize what's going on and move the ball. He did have 10 assists, so I guess it's an interesting game from Clarkson tonight. The 10 assists is pretty interesting, but man, the 5 for 15 and the 1 for 7 from 3, that is absolutely just, ugh. in a game the Jazz lose by like, what was it? By 3 points? Brutal. Brutal. You know? So everyone who's saying Key can't shoot, well, guess what? 1 for 4 compared to 1 for 7. I guess that's technically better. I don't know. Key's a lot better. I'll be honest. It's going to be interesting once this trade deadline comes. It's going to be really interesting. I'm trying to think. How do I want to explain these things? Because, in fact, let me see if I can just pull this up and just show it to everyone. This was the playmaking rounds. And let me pull this up. So if you're on the podcast listening, I'm sorry, you're going to need to go to, let's see. Here we go. And shout out to Jihad. He is a great tweeter, by the way. Let's do this. Sorry, this is just what goes with going live. I would like to copy this link here. Please and thank you. Let's pull this thing up and make it bigger. All right, looky here. This is what I'm talking about. So look at the space here. Look at the space. Clarkson has the ball here. First thing that happens, who gets the ball? Olynyk or Keante. Starting now. We're not even talking about Olynyk at this point. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, and he even no-looks Keante to give the ball to Olynyk. Now, let's see what happens next. Olynyk looks him off. Olynyk sees him. He sees him. Doesn't make the pass. Now look at Keontae's just like, okay, what am I supposed to do then? Kelly drives. It turns into a turnover. End of play. And, yeah, Keontae's obviously not super happy about it. And I think what's driving me crazy is that certain people are getting angry at Keante George in this situation. We have been talking about this for months now. Months. And this is not the only time it happened just this week or even this game. It's usually between 2, 3, 4 times a game for months. I'm going to heart this. KO to anybody but... It's not showing me your full name there. Let's see. Oh, dang it. Let me pop this out. DW to CB, I believe this is you. Let's see. KO to anybody but Friante. Thank you for the $5, DW to CB. KO to anybody but Friante. Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, we've been talking about this, guys. Honestly, haven't we been talking about this for months? For months. I'd be fed up too. And let's just talk about the reality of this. Keante, if you'll remember, in fact, let's just look up the facts here. Let's go to good old Basketball Reference, the speaker of truth, the beacon of our basketball existence. Is my internet really going to suck? All right, let's go here. Keante George, the only Keante on there, the only Keante we need, baby. But anyways, let's go to game logs and 2023-2024. This stuff has been happening basically since the injury. So basically December. And honestly, I would argue it even was happening a little bit before. But look what happens here. Keante earns the starting job on game 9. And remember, back when I was going crazy, I love Pizza Hut, but this is making me crazy. Remember, I was losing my mind because this was when the Jazz were playing just absolutely terrible. And Keante was playing really solid. Like, really solid basketball. In fact, off the bench, he was doing pretty crazy numbers. He was 33% from 3, which is better now. 42% from the field. He's actually gotten worse because of some of these things, I would argue. He was playing 20 minutes per game, 3.3 assists, 7.4 points. So it was interesting. This was coming off the bench. But we saw the flashes. Then he comes in and he plays. In fact, I don't want to include that game. The numbers go down because he's starting. But anyways, 12.7 points, 5.9 assists. The ball was moving around. The Jazz hadn't quite found their groove. The Jazz find their groove after he goes to the bench. He comes back, and he's coming off the bench playing 20-plus minutes per night, typically. And guess what? He's had a good attitude about it. Everyone who's saying he's not a good attitude, guess what? He earned the starting job, and the Jazz start winning some games because Jordan Clarkson, if you'll remember, he comes back and he gets into that sixth-man role, which he should have been in probably a long time, but Will Hardy gave him the benefit of the doubt. Remember, starting these games was Jordan Clarkson, and we started with THT to start the season. I think it was the first 2 games. It was a disaster. Then they switch over to Clarkson and Sexton, and then Sexton goes to the bench because remember, Sexton was playing terrible. So Keante started. It was quite the mess. And so really a lot of things that changed is that Jordan Clarkson goes to the bench, plays that sixth-man role, and plays really well. To his credit, he has played really well in that sixth man. The Jazz go on that crazy run. Like right here, let's see. They go on this run when Keante comes back, playing with Jordan Clarkson. Then the Jazz go on this crazy run. Although, look, they were winning when Keante goes down. He comes back. The winning gets even better. And you know what? He had a great attitude about it. Great attitude. Lost his starting job, and he had a good attitude about it. If you'll remember, Keante wanted to be Rookie of the Year. That was his goal. But you know what? He gave that up and has been moving the ball, passing the ball, has a great attitude. The Jazz start winning games. But guess what? A lot of this stuff that we're talking about, where Kelly Olynyk's not moving the ball, and maybe Kelly Olynyk is not because when Keante goes down here, they win some games, and he thinks that Keante doesn't help them win. Well, guess what? When he was on the floor, the Jazz were winning. And he was doing well, and he was moving the ball, getting the ball to Keante, getting the ball to Jordan Clarkson, and he was emphasizing the things that helped the Jazz win. He was not taking away. Are there people out there that actually think someone like THT would be doing that? Because I can promise you another thing that correlates with the Jazz winning these games, not necessarily Keante George sitting, it's THT not getting minutes, right? So, in fact, let's just go look. Talen Horton-Tucker, 23-24. In fact, I bet you this win percentage correlates right to when he stops playing. Look at that. Talen Horton-Tucker doesn't play win. Okay? So if someone like Kelly Olynyk or some of these Keante haters out there who keep coming on my timeline, you know what? Keante was not the reason they were losing games. It was Talen Horton-Tucker, who they finally sat. Thank goodness. But by the way, there was influence on this Jazz team to play him so that they could make a trade. But he played so poorly, and Keante George outplayed him so obviously. At a certain point, they just had to make the move. How do I close these? We're coming off of here. All right. So can we actually have some context? I get it. It was a tough loss and people are frustrated. I was frustrated too. I wanted to win this game. The refs were garbage. The refs were absolute stale, putrid hot dog water tonight. They were terrible. But the Jazz also need to do a better job of guarding Tyrese Maxey. It was crazy, some of this stuff, and Chris Dunn, to his credit, really slowed it down in the second half, but it makes you wonder why Chris Dunn doesn't slow it down in the first. Come on. It's frustrating that this defense sometimes is just so, it's the reason they're losing games too, by the way. It's not it's not this thing where these people want to blame specific players. By the way, can we stop? I mean, I guess I'm doing this tonight. I say the Jazz lost because of THT, but there was this weird thing going on back in the day with, everyone wanted to blame Dante Exum for everything. And then everyone wanted to blame George Niang for everything. And it's like the Jazz fans have to find that bench player that they just want to blame. And I tell you what, it wasn't Keante, and he's had a great attitude considering what's going on. And honestly, this is not junior Jazz, okay? It's not even Comp League or AAU, or even high school basketball where you're trying to get certain guys minutes. Well, I guess high school, at that point, you're not really worried. You want to win the game. This ain't that. This is the NBA. And guess what? Sometimes you have locker room issues because contracts are involved. And for someone like Keante George, who had a goal that's been taken away, and he watches certain other players take it away from him, that's frustrating. I personally am very grateful that Keante George gets to go to the Rising Stars Challenge. He deserves it. He has overcome a lot of weird stuff this year and still be invited there. Right? I mean, honestly, we saw Keante George absolutely tear up the Summer League. Absolutely shredded guys. All Summer League. Best player of Summer League. No question. No question. Of all NBA Summer League, he was the best. He was going to win at Summer League MVP and gets his ankle turned and doesn't get it. And so they give it to Cam Whitmore. Anyways, can we please take that into context with some of this stuff? I know this is not probably, some of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about because it's all Twitter stuff, but can we freaking pay attention to what's going on and have some context? I get it. Not everyone's watching every single game like we hoops nerds do. But guess what? These things do not go unnoticed on this channel. We are not going to have the petty, casual, silly, casual fan reactions on this channel. This is a hoops nerd channel. We speak the truth here. And by the way, that was the other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. And we can get into the players. I mean, you know what drove me crazy, by the way? Can Simone hit his goal every night? This is the thing that drives me crazy. 1 for 6. He goes 1 for 6. We needed you to hit one more, Simone. One more. And some of these were open. Wide open. That right there is the game. You know? Frustrating. Jordan Clarkson, can you not shoot 14% from 3? One more. That's the game. But anyways, there's this movie discussion I like to have because one thing, I love movies. I love, I'm not a guy that calls things film though, because that drives me crazy. I love movies. I love good stories. By the way, KO to anybody but Friante. Olynyk put on a clinic about the no look, no pass. Absolutely. Literally, when you're no looking your own teammates, it's probably not great. This Jazz team, so here's my analogy. Not every movie out there is meant to be a Oscar-winning film. And some of these actors and directors, they think they're absolutely God's gift to this earth because they only do Oscar types of films. I make films. I don't make movies. I make films. And my name's Martin Scorsese, and I create artwork. I don't know how to make an interesting plot, but what I do know is how to make art. Artwork is what I do. My name is Martin Scorsese. Blah, 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 blah. Well, not every movie out there is meant to win an Oscar. And by the way, not all the Oscars make a lot of money. A lot of them are flops. Okay? Some movies have different objectives. They're to make money. They're popcorn films, superhero movies. Some movies are meant to scare you. They're horror films. They're not meant to be the best film. They're meant to scare you. Some movies have other alternatives that we don't need to get into, okay? There are all sorts of movies out there with different sorts of motivations. I personally enjoy Star Wars films. Lord of the Rings, who, by the way, won best film. Return of the King, shout out. Sometimes you can do both. Unlike Martin Scorsese films, some movies actually make money. Boom! Boom! Take that, Scorsese. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. Anyways, and there are basketball teams that are kind of like that have multiple motivations. Yes, is one of the motivations for this Jazz team to win games? Sure. If the random Iron Man film wins best film, you're loving it. Oh my gosh, how crazy awesome is that? But guess what? I don't think the people going in to make an Iron Man movie or a Thor movie or any Avenger movie or any Indiana Jones movie or any, Star Wars movie or whatever is really expecting to win Best Film. You're right. They know they're not going to win Best Film, but what they are going to do is follow the hero's journey. Look it up. It's a core part of all of these films, and they do a good job, and that's why we all love them, because they all follow the hero's journey. I took screenwriting in college. This is why I like this discussion. I love it. But anyways, the Jazz have multiple motivations. If they won the title this year, they'd obviously be very happy. To me, that's the analogy, winning the championship. I don't think they expect to win the championship this year. I didn't, and I don't think they do either. They have certain other motivations. They have a 10-man roster they're running. And by the way, at times it has worked because they were flowing, playing well. They wore teams out and things like that. And guess what? The season is run on. They go on a long road trip and they got worn out. And so the talent deficit that the Jazz have, Lauri Markkanen doesn't make the All-Star team, but he's an All-Star caliber player. But outside of Lauri Markkanen, was anyone surprised that Simone Fontecchio didn't make All-Star team, or Chris Dunn, or Jordan Clarkson, or any of the Jazz vets? No one was. Right? And the Jazz know this. And honestly, Will Hardy has been the best coach in the NBA this year because he has taken players like Colin Sexton, Chris Dunn, Jordan Clarkson, Kelly Olynyk, Simone Fontecchio, all these guys, John Collins. He has taken this buffet of players. I love that thing from Bill Simmons. He talked about this buffet of players that Will Hardy has gotten, and he has somehow made that buffet into a meal that is great, that you love. It's like when you go to Chuckarama. Guess what? It doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. I go there. I like to get the fried shrimp with the cocktail sauce. It's what I like to do. I get it every time. But then you know what else I'm doing if I'm going to Chuckarama? I'm getting the scone with the honey butter. It's what you do. Lauri Markkanen is my shrimp with cocktail sauce, and Colin Sexton is my scone with honey butter. And then you know what I like at the end? They got the soft serve and the horchata. And that's Keante George and Jordan Clarkson. Does that meal make sense to anybody? No, but I come away happy. I feel like a winner. I don't feel like a winner 3 hours later. But I certainly felt like a winner after I left that Chuckarama. Right? And that's kind of what Will Hardy's done. He has taken this assortment of things. By the way, if you dog on Chuckarama, you can just get out. You can just get out. Get out right this moment. Chuckarama is thumbs up from the Hoops Nerd channel. Shout out. Send me the check, Chuckarama. Send me the check. But anyways, he deserves Coach of the Year for taking this assortment of players and making a team that has played out of their minds at times. Now, they do have a talent deficit. No one is going to say that Chuckarama is better than Ruth's Chris, No one's going to say that. But at times, it's certainly felt just as enjoyable, And guess what? The talent deficit has caught up to them. They have gotten tired. They have been smoked. A lot of the warts that they've been able to hide have now become prominent. And trade deadline has not helped either because you've got guys literally tired from things like a 6-game road trip. You've got guys now hearing their names in trade rumors every week. And by the way, if we're hearing the trade rumors multiple times through, Jake Fisher, I've heard it from Mark Stein. We've heard it from, I can't remember the other one, but these are like Tony Jones has talked about it. The big name reporters and big name local guys like Tony Jones have talked about it. If we're hearing it from them, I can promise you they know more than we do. Kelly Olynyk knows more than we do. His agent knows more and is trying to influence things. Do people realize that as well? When these trade deadlines are going on, yes, you've got managers talking to managers, but you've got agents calling these GMs all the time and saying, I don't want you. I heard you're talking to so-and-so and you're thinking of sending my guy there. I don't want my guy there. See if you can go somewhere else, right? There's things like that that happen every day, all the time. And these agents are the guys that are sending out these rumors, by the way. You know, the agents that are talking to their players all the time. And I'm sure there's some players that just don't want to hear it and say, you know what, let my agent do the work. But there's some agents and players that hear it and want to know, you know? And there's so many different elements that go on with these trade deadline stuff, guys. So when Kelly Olynyk's out there, he does not care about developing Keante George. He does not care. He is thinking about where he might be going next. I don't think he's going to be on the Jazz in a week. In fact, I'd be pretty surprised if he is not traded. If he's on the Jazz next week, it's going to be a little awkward. And by the way, I'll be surprised if Jordan Clarkson is on the Jazz next week. Really will. Because some of this is, I don't know. I know there was that thing that Brian Windhorst said he'd be surprised if Clarkson was traded. Not me. Not me, especially on nights like tonight. I don't think Brian was watching the Jazz tonight, but a lot of Jazz fans have watched this roller coaster and have watched the playoffs, and it's just, this is what happens sometimes with Clarkson. And I love Jordan Clarkson for who he is and how he plays. And there's nights where he's just incredible. And then there's nights like tonight where it's just like, my gosh, and even on tonight, he had 10 assists. So you got to give Clarkson credit. You do, actually. He played pretty decent. But there's all these things going on. So when I hear someone say, Keante George has a bad attitude or blah, 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 it's like, you probably, and I'm not saying I do either, I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but I can tell you right now, there's a lot more going on than we have any idea. All we see is the tip of the iceberg, but what these players know and what's going on is a lot, okay? And all you have to do is go listen to one of these player podcasts where they talk about, yeah, I knew this was going on and I almost went there. Like when Kyle Lowry literally would have signed with the Jazz if Gordon Hayward would not have waited. That was a thing. And that was another thing that Dennis Lindsay gifted us or didn't gift us. But anyways, there's so many different things that go on that we don't know about. That, like there's, back in the day, and I'm not going to talk about who the sources were. I think I talked about it before, but we had some pretty darn good ones at SLC Dunk. Like pretty darn good. Where it was like, wow, this is going down. Like we had heard about one trade that actually went to the owners, that went to the Millers, didn't go through. But there's things like that that go all the time, and they go to the owners and they discuss it. The GMs talk about it, and and they don't always go through. A lot of times these trades don't go through because an owner kiboshes it, In fact, I think that's basically if like the GMs want the trade to happen and then they know that the owner's signing off on it, then I think that's when they start talking to these reporters, But if there's no sign off from the owner and those things leak, then that creates problems, It's kind of like remember when the Jazz tried to get Mike Conley mid-season before the offseason when they actually got him? That thing was going to happen, but then the ownership change at Memphis caused it to fall through. It was completely the ownership that made that not happen, from what I've heard. And then the Jazz had to give up even more the next following season to make it happen. There's so many things we don't know about. So I honestly, if you want to say a certain player is not a great attitude, well, you might not know what's going on, to be honest. And it's not very fun to see your contractual potential get ruined by other players on your team. That's when locker rooms absolutely crumble. And so that's why this trade deadline, I think 99% chance I think Kelly Olynyk's traded. Also because of Taylor Hendricks. Like, Utah needs him on the floor with Utah's putrid defense, absolutely disgusting defense. You need Taylor Hendricks on the floor. I know Kelly Olynyk brings some playmaking, but if he, I don't know. Olynyk had 14 points tonight, so you got to give him credit. He played pretty well. 7 for 7 from the free throw line. I actually felt like he played pretty well. So, not going to go beyond that, but man, it's just some weird stuff. And I know I'm biased. Everyone on here wants to talk about how he's so biased about a certain player. Well, you know what? I am, because guess what? We really have seen the last 5 or 6 games that Keante George is the future. Colin Sexton had a nice night tonight, but there were some moments where it wasn't great, Although, despite that, he goes 57% from the field, 50% from 3. Pretty darn good. 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Keante start with Colin Sexton, but then you need the defense from Chris Dunn, and you just start getting into those issues where this Jazz team just has some serious flaws. It just does. And we saw the rumors that Colin Sexton might be on the trade block. The numbers look really good tonight, but there were some things that reminded me of early season Sexton rather than win streak Sexton, And some of it also is just the fact that what is it? I kind of like how I can heart these. That's pretty cool. There are also kind of some situations now where I think the scouting report is out on Colin Sexton. They are walling him off. They are not allowing him to get to the basket, and it's making him struggle, And so they're figuring out ways to keep him from getting to the basket, and it's caused a lot of issues. New York especially did that. So interesting to see. Simone Fontecchio, we talked about it. Come on, man. You've got to hit your threes. John Collins wasn't, amazing tonight, but I thought he played actually pretty decent. He was 100% fouled on that last play where he got the ball under the basket and they didn't call it. That was wild. That was crazy. But let's see. He gets 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 6 for 10 from the field. The raw numbers look pretty good. Is he the defender that Kessler is? No, he's not, but he does provide some nice elements. I don't know. I know a lot of people probably want to start Walker Kessler, and I agree, I think, but I guess then you're just having John Collins come off the bench, and I guess, they might be trying to trade John Collins too. So I don't know. I think honestly, so many of these minutes right now are being done so that they can make a trade. And honestly, if you're trying to trade John Collins and he's coming off the bench, you can't tell them he's a starter in your trade talks. If you want to trade John Collins for a pick or something, and so you can start Walker Kessler, well, that's great. But if you have already been benching him, why am I going to trade for a guy that you decided wasn't good enough to start? Like if a team's coming at you, like, why would I pay premium for a player that you don't even think is very good? It's a tough tightrope they're having to walk. And honestly, it's 100% why people should be giving credit to Will Hardy. Honestly, to deal with this stuff is pretty remarkable. Pretty amazing. Let's see here. Colin Sexton, we talked about him a little bit. The numbers look really good, but there were moments where you can just tell the scouting report is out. 24 minutes. The one that's interesting is actually Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn really should have played more, and we'll see what happens. This is why I'm thinking that I want Clarkson and Olynyk moved, because I would like to see Keante get more minutes running the offense, because I think his passing creates a lot of great shots, and you can play Chris Dunn more. You can run a 3-guard rotation of Sexton, Dunn, and George, and just play more minutes. I mean, Dunn is playing 16 minutes a night. That's it. He can absolutely get up to 24 minutes. And you can absolutely have Keante run 28 minutes a game. And Colin Sexton play 30 to 32 minutes a game. Why can't you do that? And obviously you want some depth there, and if there's an injury. But guess what? Then you can start giving Bryce Sensabaugh a few minutes here and there, right? It's be nice to see him get on the floor. That's the other reason. And I know we've talked about this like every night for like a month, but I want to see Taylor Hendricks get minutes. And we know he can shoot the ball. We know he can defend. He doesn't have the playmaking ability that Olynyk does, but not many do. But I don't think it's actually that necessary if you just play Chris Dunn, Keante George, and Colin Sexton more. And look at this, 6 assists for Colin Sexton on a night that I just felt like, he's still on a night where I didn't think he played pretty well. He was 57% from the field, 50% from three, and 22 point. He was pretty awesome. 6 assists, pretty great. So I just think at this point it's kind of like it's time to start letting the young guys play. And I don't think it's actually going to be much different. I mean, the defense can't get any worse. Honestly, it can't. I was going to look at the advance, but I remembered I'm not going to do that. We already talked about Jordan Clarkson. He's just not looked great against these good teams the last 3 or 4, and he might be tired. I don't know. And I'm sure the trade deadline talk is affecting play. The Jazz need this trade deadline to come and go. They just do. Because even the guys, like let's say Jordan Clarkson doesn't get traded, I bet you he'll play better once he knows he's still here. Ochai Agbaji, we might need to start having some tough conversations here soon, guys. I don't know. And I know this might be a loss on my part because I want to move some guys to see him get more opportunity. He's only playing 17 minutes, but man, in the minutes he's on the floor, not a lot's happening. Although he's not really getting the ball. That's another reason why, 15 shots for Clarkson. You start spreading that ball around. If Keontae's moving the ball around, he maybe gets up to 6, 7 shots a game. Can he get more improved shots? Art Vandelay, Dunn should have closed the game. He absolutely should have. I think that whole decision is 100% trade deadline related. 100%. But anyways, Ochai Agbaji, 0 for 3. He just looks out of sorts. And I think this Olynyk Clarkson thing, you'll look at the numbers and a lot of times they look really good, but it is like a 2-man game and the other 3 guys on the floor are just not getting all that involved. Like, when's the last time, like, we all talk about Walker Kessler playing. I mean, he played a really nice night tonight, only gets 14 minutes and he had 8 points, 7 rebounds. They just run like a Kelly Olynyk, Jordan Clarkson pick and roll or 2-man game so often that we just don't really see anything else. And it's hard for me to really judge Ochai, but man, what little evidence we do have has not been great. I mean, it's disappointing because we had heard, remember, in training camp, there were the reports that Ochai looked awesome, and to now kind of just be like, man, I don't know what to think is tough. So it's a little worrisome at this point. But I think that we need to have a trade deadline move so that we can the jury not be out yet? I don't think the jury should be out yet. I think you still need to see more because I think guys with that type of athleticism, and he's shown he can shoot the ball. It's just not happening right now. So I don't know. It's worrisome. Walker Kessler was awesome tonight, and I did wonder at the end of the game, like, why isn't he playing? And to me, it's just trade deadline, And it's also a TNT game, national TV. Like, I don't know if that's related, but it might be a little bit to make sure that those guys are playing on that game when everyone's going to be watching, I don't know. I think those things are legit. Sorry, guys. It's 12:35. We probably need to wrap this up, but those were some things I just want to talk about because I just feel like so many people will make these quick rash decisions or shoot off these like tweets and it's like I don't know. You've got to look at the context. You've got to think about these things going on. There's stuff going on that we don't even know about. And by the way, I 100% think the Jazz are just ready to play Taylor Hendricks. He's ready to go. He really is. When they had, I can't remember who it was that got injured. I think it was John Collins. We were seeing Taylor Hendricks minutes, and they looked good. Like, they were legit, like, wow, this guy is something. And we haven't seen him since. So we got to make a move. We got to make a trade. Kelly Olynyk, and probably Jordan Clarkson too. Got to make a move. Got to make a move. And then, Quentin Grimes can come and he can play off the bench as well, because that's the big rumor with New York. I bet you that's what happens. I bet you. All right, let's see here. By the way, we do need to look really quickly. It's depressing. Utah's now at 13, but still conveying the pick. They just got to outplay these guys. But all of a sudden, well, Houston lost tonight. That's interesting. Utah's got to keep winning, though, because, the Chicago Bulls and Golden State Warriors, they're still really trying. So, can't go backwards. All right, let's see here. Let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. Thank you for being a part of the show tonight, guys. I know it's a little more somber tonight, but things will get better. All right, let's give a shout out to Dirty Jazz Car Wash Channel, Just Buckets JB, Baby Elliott Matson, Christian House Money DeHaas, The Outlaw, Jesse James Nelson, all the Josh you need, just Josh in your pod, Ryan Perry, the legend, Ezekiel Raicibe, the man for none other, yes, Jake Seacan, see ya, Alexa Later, Built for Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, Mimi de Abajo, Jordan the Goat Besterol, TGD, Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KO to anybody but Friante, Patrick Kukubo, the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Guys, like I said already, like and subscribe to the channel. I will